We're a proud town under a steeple. We're a homegrown, nor'easter-blown cornerstone of people. In the shadow of East Mountain, a Dodgetown memory, we are the grit and gumption that was the birth of Lee. Buzzer beaters, goal line stands, we're used to winning with our hands. People helping people make a town. We weathered floods and epidemics and corporate polemics, but we're still in the game, not beaten down. Yankee, Irish, and Latino, Italian, grappa, vino, fino, do-it-yourselfers, and we don't say we're sorry. But you can take your summer traffic show and $1,000,000 second homes and go and dump them all into the quarry. We're a proud town under a steeple. We're a homegrown, nor'easter-blown cornerstone of people. In the shadow of East Mountain, a Dodgetown memory, we are the grit and gumption that was the birth of Lee. Now the mills have been shut down, hard to find a job in town, except unpacking made in China at the outlets on the hill. NY's DPW getting tough when things are getting rough with neighbors who are hurting and can't pay their water bill. We need to fix our steeples, so come on, let's do it, people, and demand that GE clean our river of every PCB. Oh, there'll be hope on the horizon, and a new day will come rising when Eagle Mills develop for our community. We're a proud town under a steeple. We're a homegrown, nor'easter-blown cornerstone of people. In the shadow of East Mountain, a Dodgetown memory, we are the grit and gumption that was the birth of Lee. Now Lee has always found a place for the human race and realized that we all can be trusted. New immigrants today all have a role to play with needed work they do, so why should they be busted? We're a proud town under a steeple. We're a homegrown, nor'easter-blown cornerstone of people. In the shadow of East Mountain, a Dodgetown memory, we are the grit and gumption that was the birth of Lee. Yeah, we are the grit and gumption that was the birth of Lee.
Well, hello, 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 everybody from Lee and thereabouts. This is Walkabout. Well, my name is Deidre Consolati, and every week around this time we walk through the alleyways of Lee and perambulate down the streets and get all of the good stories. Well, today is Thursday. It's April 11th, 2013, and here's our weather. I thought I would just read it out to you. Do you feel that you were in a state of flux for about the last 2 or 3 weeks? First the snowflakes and the whirling leaves, then the fogs and the mists, and then the fast disappearing snowfalls, and always that pale blue sky that was washed by cloud shapes, never before seen in time. We were in a state of flux, and we still are. But then, on Sunday night around 6 o'clock, I walked outdoors. There, the robins were singing in the early evening like evensong, and the pansies I'd set on a bench were all nodding their agreement, and the sky and the horizon was layered with pastel pink clouds and the pale blue skies. And you know what? I said to myself right then and there, upon this moment, it is spring. And so that happened for me around 5 o'clock last Sunday. And it feels the same way, even though we're getting into some other colder weather. Okay, now let's turn to our backdrop very, very quickly, because I want to say something before I bring on our guest. I've shown you this photograph. This is from the 1920s. This is, I believe, taken from before the boat ramp was built. And this is looking over Laurel Lake. And this was done in the 1920s by Benjamin Teal, a photographer. And now, if I would like to show you a map of Laurel Lake, if you would. And right here is Laurel Lake, right here on our map. You see that, and you see that white point there of land jutting into the lake. That is a meadow called Edith Wharton Park, and it's the focal point of Laurel Lake. Everybody sees this meadow, this beautiful, beautiful meadow that is, you know, widely seen from many places. And this, people of Lee and Lenox, is your park. This is your meadow. And I'm showing you this because Lenox voters, you will have a chance to vote on an article that will ask to subdivide that or break that parcel, break Edith Wharton Park up into a building lot that would, where a home would be constructed, and possibly, I don't want to say, a McMansion would go in there. But that's what is likely to happen. And so, Lenox voters, I would like to ask that you turn down this proposal. It just does not work. And I thank the Lenox Select Board, in particular Ken Fowler, for talking about this when the opportunity arose at a Lenox Select Board meeting a few weeks ago. He kept saying, this is a bad idea, or that it's on Laurel Lake. This is on Laurel Lake. And if you look at the map again, you'll see that this is such a historically important cultural area for Lenox. Here's the Mount, here's the former Fox Hollow School, here's High Lawn Farm. All of this is in its natural state. There are only dirt roads back there, and we want to keep that property as it is. So we do not want to take the tiny Lee portion and make it into something else. And don't forget, this property is jointly owned by the towns of Lee and Lenox. So I would just like to say to you very quickly, Lenox voters, do your job, please, and vote down this proposal so that we can keep this area intact for the beauty, its own scenic beauty, as well as for people, tourists too, who would love to look upon the backside of Laurel Lake. So thank you for this. Okay, onward. Well, I have a sharp guest here today. He's someone whose father lived in Lee, and let's bring him right on. It's Dmitri Freund. Hello, Dmitri. Hi. Great to see you.
You too. Great to see you, too.
Please sit down. Now, I just want to say that Dmitri Freund is an artist. This is his book right here. And Dmitri, why don't we just ask a few things about you? I know your father, Philip Freund, lived on Summer Street in Lee. Now, did you also live in that house?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
yes.
You did? Yeah. And at what point in your, did you move away?
Well, when I was 1 year old, I moved away. First of all, we moved to El Salvador for a year, and then we moved to Jamaica for 6 years. Then back to the States to Virginia for a year, and then back when I was about, I believe I was 9 years old. And I lived there for many years.
Oh, on Summer Street.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
right. And your mother's name is Elena, right?
Irina.
And I knew your father, Philip, because we were involved in political work back in, I believe, the early 90s. And he was a very determined and dedicated man, and I could tell you have inherited his same qualities.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, Dmitri, I know that you have done some artwork because I happened to have been in that home last summer, and I saw this very interesting artwork on the walls. Always wondered whose it was, and now I find out that it is yours.
Yeah.
So Dmitri has done quite a bit of artwork, and let's take a look at this just to get the flavor of some of the work that he's done. And what I've picked now to start off with are some of these photographs that, to my mind, have a cosmic quality to them. And what is your take on this, Dmitri?
Well, yeah, well, this is definitely, it is a religious piece. It is you can say an icon, a religious icon. Maria, Madonna, and everything is transformed into a symbol. I've pulled away from concrete objects.
Interesting, interesting.
Where basically I transferred Mary into a fold of garments, you know, just portraying a general outline of her figure. And here inside, this little green leaf is representation of Jesus, who is going to be born, or she's holding. I make that very ambiguous. And the throne and the crown. And on the both sides here, you have the two angels, which I did not portray in any way as in a traditional way at all.
Right.
In fact, I've decided that I realize that angels we have never seen, but what I've done is made it into flowing flames, flowing light, moving light. And something that, because we have not seen them, and I don't want to portray them as people with wings, which has been a very traditional way of portraying angels.
Well, you know what's really interesting is that by coincidence, I brought with me, because I wanted to show people, here is something that I feel is almost has a mandala feeling to it, because it's in a round space, even though I know concentrically it's different. Yeah. But here is the traditional Madonna, and guess what? Then I brought this other little patch I bought at a gathering of the Vibes a long time ago, and these are angels also flowing, and look how different they are from yours, both the Madonna and, here, let me get back to yours, and the angels. And what I wanted to, the point I wanted to make with this is that all cultures have a way of drawing from, maybe it's their unconscious, according to Carl Jung, and to bring forward symbols or icons that have been rooted in their unconscious, and it doesn't really matter culturally where one lives, whether you're in Tibet or in Machu Picchu or in you know, the United States, but these come out of ourselves, and I feel that you are performing this type of work. Yeah. And so would you say that then your work has a lot to do with symbolism?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm greatly influenced by the Russian culture, which I did not mention before. That my mother is from Russia, and in my period when I was living in these different places, I would always go to Moscow, Russia, from infancy all the time. And I also studied art in Moscow, Russia, from 2001 to 2008. So I was exposed to the Russian icons, but obviously being a man of the 21st century, I will not be portraying in my own creative spirit exactly what they do, though I take some of maybe the frameworks, the triptych and the arcs. But I definitely feel, for me, that my Christian faith is definitely the biggest prompting force in my creativity.
Okay, let's look at another. I have this has a certain feel to it. If you could comment on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, this is a picture called "The New Jerusalem," and the thought in this, the feeling behind it is there's this journey that we must take to get from here we are in life, and we have to go through these mountains, these rugged, difficult, steep mountains and dangers, and eventually to end up in, well, basically heaven, New Jerusalem, as it's called in the Book of Revelations. And and since I'm using maybe the traditional old architecture, I use contemporary urban setting to make it is something that is more relatable to mankind today.
You know what's interesting is the other item I brought was a shell that has a spiral, and that image, the symbol of a spiral, is found throughout cultures from Neolithic times.
In Dante's.
Exactly, the rings of hell and like that.
Yeah.
So that's an example. Another portrayal of a journey is the symbol of the spiral, and you're commenting on that differently. Let's take another look at also this work, I feel, has that quality, that Jungian quality to it, this one here.
Yeah. Okay, this is well, actually, to do it justice, I have to show both of these pictures, the one that's here and the one that is
very good.
To, I guess it would be to the right, I guess, from your point of view. And this is called Entrapped, and this is called Freedom. And the idea of these pictures is to, at first I was trying to portray a child, a child who is scared, who is maybe an orphan, who has been abandoned, who doesn't have a family, is stuck in the state by the welfare system, and then finds freedom, but then I realized that this is concerning the human being, that we are afraid of we have fears, we have negative things happen within our life that maybe we could feel entrapped by those circumstances. But then in spiritual journey, as we have learned to conquer our fears and learn to overcome our past, we can find ourselves coming out of this cycle of fear and being able to break out into the light. And so this carries a very universal meaning. It can have any religious connotation, even though I'm Christian, but this can carry very universal
absolutely
meaning.
Right, so. right. Now, I did have a paper here. Where can we go? Well, I'd like to pick out now something a little bit more representational, just to give you an idea, and I'm sure they're here. Well, here we go with this particular item, but I think behind it is one that's even more. There we go.
Okay. Well, this for me, I've done many works, what I call studies or sketches of whether it's being out in plain air in nature or doing still lifes, where for me I find the essence of life, which I take from the real world, because it is a mistake for an artist to just seclude himself in his studio and from his own imagination just pull out color. All color that an artist takes, it must come from the external world so that it can be understood by people, because otherwise you're doing your own thing and you get lost in what you understand but no one else will understand. And so it's important for me to draw from the real world to create understandable works, because I take from the real world and filter through my inner world, and I produce what I do produce. For instance, even though I took from nature, even though I was drawing from nature, I felt something in these. I was taking basically, these are like rose bush fruit, and I just embellished it because I felt within me an impulse to portray a light. Basically, here's a center of light, starting here, and then everything sort of expands out.
Yes.
This is a fairly large work, actually.
Right. Is it really?
It's 29 inches by 40 inches, so it's definitely.
And so there's that expansiveness going on, which is the forces, which are the forces of nature anyway. And here are two others along that line. This is has a little bit more representation to it too. And so are we then seeing exactly what you're talking about with the light coming out like that?
Yeah.
Okay, now I have a thought. This is something that came to me years ago when I was sitting in the woods, and this flash came to me, and it was, art is what a person thinks of the magic of nature.
I guess that's a good way of putting it. I always thought of it that art is simply a path from which the individual, as he sits, as he observes, as he goes through life, he picks up pieces basically of what's actually within himself. There is you're sort of looking into yourself.
I agree with you. I agree
in
with
each blade of grass, each mountain, every little object. You see a piece of yourself, and then the artist brings it all together into a work of art.
Well, that's another thing that Carl Jung said, is that, for example, all these symbols are actually, and our expression of the symbols is a way of understanding ourselves. And I think that's very true. And so that's where that comes from. Okay, now I love the whimsy in this. This reminds me of Monet's Cottage.
Oh, okay.
A little bit. If we could get a close-up on that one. Here we go. Right.
Yeah, this is, actually I took this, as you could perhaps even see the title, it says Gould Farm.
Gould Farm, really? Interesting.
I used to be a guest there many years ago, back in '93 actually. But I would go there from time to time, and I would love to do artwork, and I gave them this picture actually, because it was kind of like my pay. I was there to visit I wanted to do art, and I wanted to live there and eat. So I said, well, I'll paint you a picture. And so this is again just a joy, just basically an explosion of joy. You know, I just love the flowers. I just love the farm life, the quietness, and you know,
it shows.
So
And was this along those lines too? This one
Pretty
with
much,
the tiger lily and the bench. Is that a bench?
I put that bench in. That was not there actually. This is actually in Lee, in my house. We have lilies there, and again, for me, I get a lot of joy just being out in nature, and when I'm painting it, it just comes right out.
Well, see, maybe that's what I was thinking, is art is what you think of the magic or joy of nature, right? And then I'm totally fascinated by these other, seem to be stronger, darker works, these two here.
Yeah. Well, this is actually when I was in Estonia. It's a small republic outside of Russia in the Baltics, in the capital of the city called Tallinn. And there's a park there, a magnificent park actually, and in the old city. And I used to love to go there and draw and paint, and have these really old trees, really bent and holes in the trees. And so I was just one of my, I guess, studies for future works, future compositions that I would later produce.
Was this?
Well, this is just a study, but later I do.
I didn't know. Yeah, it'd be fun to see that. It would be fun to see that. And then this has a certain strength to it too, a certain intensity that we. Right.
This is actually in Highland Farm.
Is it?
This is the old horse stable over here. And these two punches, one of them is still remaining. This is right next to the hay barn. One of the trees were actually blown down, and I was there in March, froze to death as I was painting it. But you know, it was middle of March, and it was very windy and cold. I came back home, and my fingers were pulsating with pain.
And so is this a recent work? Are you saying this is
is
March?
this is 2009.
Oh, no, but you came, but you also went to see that in March. Right, right, right. Well, I think there's one or two more, but I think the important thing for us to see is your large work,
yes.
because why don't we bring that up right now as our final, our tour de force here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is. I think this picture is very autobiographical. I'm not sure you can see better.
I'll hold on to it too.
Yeah.